So this is my last video on Life is Strange, and I thought it would be a nice idea to make the last video some kind of final thought video. In fact, there's quite a lot that I want to talk about. I will try to deliver the message, but English is not my native tongue, so it may occur that I'm struggling from time to time to find the correct words and shit.
Chloe's step-douche better not cause me trouble.
You won't. I chose to just use this scene from episode 1 to, I don't know, chill. The lighthouse is the most iconic landmark in Arcadia Bay, and that's why I thought this would be the perfect place for a video like this, especially because we got Chloe here, and some of you who saw the last part of Life is Strange know what happens to her. Let's take a picture here. So it's kinda cool having her hanging around again. I wrote a paper in university regarding the literature of adolescence. Yes, I'm studying literature too. It's very interesting, and I thought I could combine this with my final thoughts on Life is Strange. I need a list. Life is Strange is not just a video game, it's actually a visual piece of adolescent literature, if you want to put it like this. I will try to explain why. First, you need to know what literature of adolescence does. The most important part is the reflection of the youth. It doesn't matter if it's just the youth of the author or the youth in general. Every author who decides to write a piece about adolescence wants to rewind to his youth. He reflects on his growing up, on his puberty or her puberty if it's a female author. It's kind of irritating that English only has one word for that. We have autor and autorin for male and female author.
I love this October vibe.
Anyway, the second part is that the literature of adolescence should provide new ways of doing things, new ways of seeing things, new ways of decision making, and new ways of judgment. Furthermore, it should trigger new learning processes. Next point is what exactly is adolescence? Most scientists in this field...
If only Chloe and I were kids here again.
That's exactly what I meant. Puberty begins for most people at age 11 or 12. The post-adolescence ends at 25. Max, Chloe and the students of Blackwell are all like 18, so they fit perfectly into this grid. Protagonists of adolescent literature tend to have some existential crisis, may experience a heavy cut in their lives. Most of the time this cut is a psychological one. Moving to a different town or country can also be a cut. A few other important parts of this genre are the being an adult, to separate themselves from their parents, the development of own values, the process of fitting in or not fitting in his or her social role. Few good examples for that are The Catcher in the Rye, who had a few references here. Then Perks of Being a Wallflower, Die Leiden des jungen Werther from Germany. To Kill a Mockingbird was it? Yeah. And Ellen von Olestierne. The most important parts of puberty are 1. The physical changes, the psychological changes. The third aspect is the social level, where it is important that the adolescent tries to fit in. The characteristics of adolescent literature in Life is Strange. On first glance, Life is Strange reflects on 3 levels of adolescence. The first level is our youth, the age of social media in general. The second level is the youth of the developers. Dontnod Entertainment chose quite a few soundtracks which fit perfectly into the game. This calm indie music. This music is not from 2013, in which Life is Strange takes part. Whilst the dialogue, the setting and the behavior of most protagonists is very modern. They use memes and stuff, you have seen it. The music seems to be kinda timeless. This calm and relaxing soundtrack is carrying this Arcadia Bay atmosphere, you know. The third level is older youth literature. As I said, there were references in Life is Strange, so Life is Strange reflects also on older literature. The poster in Max's room is a changed cover from The Catcher in the Rye. We can't use all 3 aspects in Life is Strange, since Max's physical changes should have ended by now. The aspect of psychological change is the most important here. The tornado, which will destroy Arcadia Bay, can be seen as her inner conflict in puberty. This second aspect can be a little anarchist or even chaotic, and I think the storm is a perfect metaphor for that. So now to the interesting part. The storm is Max's inner turbulence, and maybe it symbolizes her fear of adulthood. She tries to stop it with the rewind. I mean, she literally rewinds back in her 13-year-old self. She wants to be a kid again. She is constantly trying to avoid the final day. Chloe is, in fact, some kind of childhood anchor. Many scenes in episode 4 and 5, they're reminiscing about their lives as little pirates, jumping around in Arcadia Bay. Another reflection of youth. Only the death of childhood, Chloe's death, can conquer the fears and allow Maxine to get a grasp of her final role as a professional photographer. I even would say that Max had, I don't know how to say that without sounding like an asshole, but some kind of delayed adolescence. I mean, look at her. She wears these shirts and hoodie and the same haircut as in the pictures with her dad. As Chloe stated, after all this time you're still Max Caulfield, so I guess she didn't really change in her puberty. And some point of the game, I think she said, I had nothing to rebel against, so she just existed without really growing up. Jefferson was the embodiment of the third aspect, the aspect of socializing and fitting into the new social role. He encouraged her to participate in the Everyday Heroes contest, and in some way you could say that when in the timelines where she participates, she wins. I think she even stated that she's a human camera. All she did really was watching and taking pictures. So, whilst Max is very calm, composed, and kind of a geek girl, Chloe is the exact opposite. She's rebellious, loud, she likes to take drugs, she knows how to fight, she dyes her hair, she dresses like a punk, she has issues with her father, she blames everyone and everything on William's death, even William himself. So she does all the things that you would expect from a rebellious teenager in adolescent literature. Interesting in this is that Max can take Rachel Amber's place. The new clothes in episode 3 are kind of a symbol of that. And you can even trigger some option that Chloe uses Max as her as her cell phone background. This is important because girls in puberty may experiment or explore limits, boundaries and new preferences with their best friends because they share the same fears, the same wishes, and they just understand each other. I don't know how far this went with Chloe and Maxine, but it seemed to me after episode 5 that they have kind of a romantic relationship. They have 2 optional kisses and the phrase "you will find out Max Caulfield" in the diary. Next up is an aspect of literature which Life is Strange also uses very often. This is the characteristics of speech. Both Max and Chloe have unique ways of saying things and unique catchphrases. I think Chloe has Hella and Max has Wowzer and all these puns. This is used in literature to enhance the psychological bond between reader and protagonist. I'm not from America and not from England, so I don't know how often you use Hella and Wowzer. The use of memes and all those license plates referring to different series and movies did the job instead. Many elements in the game have the sole purpose of enhancing the feeling of reality. It's important that you as the player or as the reader in literature have the feeling that those people exist.
Wowzer, Chloe drew that to mark our tree fort.
Yep.
So we'd always be able to find each other in case of emergency.
And now, the most interesting reflection of the past in the entire game, which is the Everyday Heroes picture that Max has threaded in episode 1. This shot, where Max watches her own memories and takes a picture of her whilst doing so, is, I think you can say it is the essence of self and youth reflection. She's not just reflecting on her own state as she is now. She's reflecting on her youth, which is documented by all those pictures, and she can even reflect about that reflection by just looking at the picture which she took. And as I said in the Maxception video, you can go so far with that. You can reflect on her, reflecting on her memories. You you can reflect on the reflector, and the reflector of the reflector can reflect about the reflector. I should stop with that. This is like the ultimate reflection of the past. This picture is both her ticket to the past, like literally she can photo op in it, and it's her ticket to a successful future as a photographer, as we saw in episode 5. The literature of adolescence tries to reflect on past events, on the youth, and Life is Strange does this with the rewind. Plus, this high school setting at Blackwell Academy can take us back to a more carefree and relaxed part of our lives, to just sit there and watch Maxine sitting at the fountain and contemplate. These chilling sequences are also very important because Max becomes the reader of a piece of adolescent literature on a sunny Sunday morning, lost in thoughts and memories. It was so poetic. I think there was one sequence in the prize in Chloe's house where she remembered a scene from her youth. She was like testing a wine with Chloe and they made a stain on the carpet. I can't say this often enough, the time travel aspect is the most important part of Life is Strange. It doesn't matter if it's a dialogue with Chloe and the reenacting of Max's youth, if it's watching an old photograph, if it's actual time travel. It happens so often that Max just takes the player and takes a step back in order to take one forward. The developers didn't leave a chance. They used everything time travel can give you to craft this. In nearly each and every scene you have the chance to travel back in time with music, sound, dialogue or rewind. So in conclusion, the most important aspects of youth literature are present in Life is Strange, in this video game. This is why Life is Strange is not just a masterpiece of digital adolescent literature, but the pure essence of that. It was wrong to assume that there are just 3 levels of youth reflection. There are 4. Music symbolizes the youth of the game developers, the older generation. The pop culture references symbolize the generation of pop culture and social media. Then we have Maxine's time travel. It starts with Chloe's rescue and her powers, and substitutes her adolescence. On the same page, Max symbolizes not only herself but also the player. She is the protagonist who has to face the dangers of the game. At the same time, she is the player who is confronted with a reenactment or who relives his own youth and adolescence. Life is Strange is not a game about a female superhero, although she may have those powers. She's helping her fellow students and some Arcadia Bay residents, but finally her actions only help 2 people, and that's herself and Chloe. And that's good because that is why she got those powers. Despite the ultimate sacrifice, Bay over Bay. Bay? I hate that word, I don't even know how to pronounce it. Maxine grows on her experiences. She grows up. The meaning of Max's powers were 5 final days for Chloe to experience love and friendship, because she had like 5 years of miserable life before that. Finally, if you choose to sacrifice Chloe, she becomes a sign. She shows Maxine the way to adulthood. The blue butterfly is a symbolism for Chloe's spirit who flies away and leaves behind a smiling Max who overcame her inner demons, turbulences and boundaries. Life is Strange is the journey that every one of us has to go. Moving to another city, moving to another country, cuts, breakups, self-doubts, regrets, jumps into cold water, into unknown water. All those are things that every one of us has to do. Every one of us has experienced this in adolescence. Maxine Caulfield, this timid girl from Oregon, shows us in, for her, very not typical way, in a very direct way, that we don't have a second choice. It doesn't matter how much we want to rewind, to turn back the clock, to be young again. We can't. It's up to us to make the best out of our lives, to ensure that we don't have regrets, even if life is strange.